"That's all you deserve," my mother whispered, pressing a $500 check into my hand while my sister posed for photos behind a $250,000 wedding reception. I was standing in the corner of a Ritz-Carlton ballroom. Crystal chandeliers, 200 guests, filet mignon going cold on fine china, and me in an $89 black dress from Nordstrom Rack, holding a thin envelope that was supposed to be my mother's answer to the question I'd asked 20 minutes earlier. "Will you help me and Marcus the way you helped Olivia?" But the $500 wasn't what made me leave that night. It was what she said to the man standing next to me. The man who'd later helped me build everything she swore I'd never have. Before I go on, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely connect with this story. And tell me in the comments where you're watching from right now and what time it is where you are. My name is Sienna Carter. I'm 30 years old now, but let me take you back 2 years to a Saturday in June inside a ballroom at the Ritz-Carlton in Hartford, Connecticut. The night I stopped trying to earn my mother's love. I grew up in Glastonbury, Connecticut, the kind of town where every lawn is trimmed to the same height and every family portrait hangs in the same spot above the fireplace. 4-bedroom colonial on a tree-lined street, 2-car garage, a golden retriever named Baxter. From the outside, the Carters looked like a catalog family. From the inside, we ran on a ranking system. My older sister Olivia Carter was the blueprint. Straight-A student, captain of the varsity lacrosse team, early admission to Johns Hopkins. She moved through life like someone who'd been told since birth that the world was hers. And she believed it, because our mother made sure she did. Laura Carter, 58, former surgical nurse who'd once dreamed of medical school but never applied. She poured every ounce of that unfinished ambition into Olivia like concrete into a mold. And Olivia hardened into exactly what our mother wanted. A dermatologist with a private practice, a boyfriend from the right family, and a smile that photographed well at holiday parties. Then there was me. I was the one who drew instead of studied, the one who won an art contest sophomore year and brought the ribbon home to a silent dinner table. My mother looked at it the way you'd look at a coupon you'd never use. "That's nice, Sienna, but creativity is a luxury. Stability is a responsibility." That ribbon went into my bedroom drawer. Olivia's lacrosse trophies, her honor roll certificates, her Johns Hopkins acceptance letter. Those lived in the glass display cabinet in the living room. You could see it from the front door. Guests always noticed. That was the point. One daughter who would save lives. One daughter who drew pictures. Guess which one got mentioned at Thanksgiving? I graduated from UConn with a degree in communications and a GPA nobody in my family ever asked about. I landed a job as a junior marketing coordinator at a small agency in Hartford. Bridwell and Partners, 11 employees, an office above a sandwich shop on Asylum Street. Salary, $38,000 a year before taxes. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. The problem was the car. Hartford's public transit doesn't reach the suburbs where I needed to meet clients. I needed a vehicle, but my credit history was thin. So my parents co-signed an $18,000 Honda Civic. On paper, it was generous. In practice, it was a leash. My mother kept the co-sign agreement in her bedside drawer like some people keep a loaded weapon. "You still owe us for that car, Sienna. Don't bite the hand that co-signed your loan." My father, Robert Carter, 60, retired sales manager, said nothing. He'd look at his plate, chew slowly, and when my mother finished, he'd say, "Your mother has a point," without ever specifying which one. I met Ethan Brooks at a coffee shop on Pratt Street. UX designer, freelance. Calm in a way I mistook for indifference until he looked up and smiled. He'd been on his own since 18. Parents divorced, self-taught, built everything from scratch. No safety net, just consistency. What I loved about Ethan wasn't ambition in the way my mother understood it. It was discipline. He showed up every day, for his work, for me, for the life we were quietly building in a 1-bedroom apartment with secondhand furniture and a spreadsheet taped to the fridge. My mother found out about him 3 months in. "A freelancer?" she said over Sunday pot roast. "So neither of you has a real job." That same month, Olivia got engaged to Dr. Jason Miller, orthopedic surgeon, old money family, perfect posture, perfect life. My mother hosted the engagement dinner. Champagne. 40 guests, backyard glowing. Olivia found a partner who matches her ambition, she said, glancing at Ethan across the yard. You found a partner who matches your situation. Ethan didn't react. But I saw it land. 5 weeks before Olivia's wedding, Ethan proposed. Not a rooftop, not a restaurant, just our apartment. Pasta boiling, rain against the window. I don't have a speech, he said. I just know I want this to be my life. You. This, us. The ring was simple. Bought with 4 months of savings. I said yes before he finished. We told my family the next Sunday. My father said, "That's wonderful, sweetheart," and went back to his newspaper. My mother looked at the ring for 1 second, then turned to Olivia. Have you confirmed the florist for the orchids? Olivia's wedding planning became a freight train. The Ritz-Carlton Hartford was booked before anyone else even had a say. A wedding planner flown in from New York. Orchids imported from Ecuador, not roses. Olivia said roses were too ordinary. The budget crossed $250,000 within weeks, and my mother spoke about it like she was managing a corporate merger. An investment in the right image, she kept saying. My role in the wedding was never discussed. It was assigned. I would manage the guest book table. Not a table in the reception. Not near the entrance. A small podium placed off to the side where no photographs would reach. I would smile. I would greet guests. I would disappear in plain sight. The week before the wedding, Olivia texted me. You can bring Ethan. Just don't let him talk too much with Jason's colleagues. It's not really his world. I stared at the message for a long time. I didn't reply. I should have. I didn't. Because I still believed in some quiet, irrational part of me that showing up well enough might eventually change how I was seen. That illusion died on a Saturday night in June. The Ritz ballroom looked like it had been designed to remind you exactly how expensive everything was. Crystal chandeliers hung low over white linen tables. Orchids towered in sculpted arrangements. The air smelled like tuberose and money. 200 guests, gold-rimmed chargers, 3 forks per person. A string quartet playing classical arrangements like the room itself demanded silence. I arrived early. My dress was black, simple, $89. Nordstrom Rack clearance. I had tried it on 3 times that morning, like it might somehow become something else if I looked at it long enough. It didn't. Olivia floated through the room in a custom gown, train trailing behind her like she was born already forgiven for everything. My mother stood in champagne silk in the front row, dabbing her eyes. And I noticed something I had been avoiding my entire life. She had never looked at me the way she was looking at Olivia right now. Not once. After the ceremony, I took my place at the guest book table. Congratulations, I said maybe 40 times. Each time felt identical. Each time I became less visible. One of my mother's cousins leaned in, squinting. Oh, you're the other daughter. I smiled. I'm Sienna. Right, she said vaguely. Laura always talks about Olivia. She's the star of the family, isn't she? I kept smiling until my face hurt. Ethan was seated at the far end of the room. Last row, near the service entrance. A place no one accidentally ends up at. He didn't complain. He never did. But I saw the way his hands stayed still on the table like he was holding something inside himself down. The toasts came and went. Olivia and Jason danced first. The room softened into champagne warmth and applause. I left the guest book table to find Ethan. I didn't make it far. Sienna. My mother's voice cut through the music. She took my arm and pulled me toward a corner near the bar. Not private, just hidden enough that no one would interrupt. She placed a white envelope into my hand. I already knew before I opened it. A check. $500. Memo line. Wedding contribution. Sienna. I looked up at her. She was watching me like a scientist, observing a reaction she already expected. That's all you deserve, she said quietly. Not angry. Not loud. Worse. Certain. A waiter paused behind her, hearing it. Someone at a nearby table looked away too quickly. The $500 wasn't the wound. It was the comparison sitting behind it like a wall I had been living against my entire life. Olivia, $250,000 wedding. Me, $500. I folded the check slowly, put it in my clutch, and I didn't say anything. I think that scared her more than anything I could have said. I walked back to Ethan. He saw my face before I spoke. What happened? Later, I said. But later didn't wait. It followed me. 10 minutes after, my mother arrived at our table. She had another glass of champagne now. Not drunk, just unguarded. She looked at Ethan first. Not me. Him. I hope you're not expecting us to fund your future too, she said. A smile, sharp enough to cut. We don't invest in dead ends. Silence spread across the table like spilled water. Ethan didn't move, but I saw it in him. The tightening, the restraint, the decision not to give her the satisfaction of a reaction. Something in me shifted right then. Not loudly, quietly, like a door closing inside my chest. I stood up. Ethan, I said. We're leaving. No hesitation. He nodded. He didn't ask questions. He just stood up with me. The parking lot air was colder than the ballroom. The noise of the wedding faded behind us like a life we were stepping out of. I sat in the passenger seat of Ethan's old car, and for the first time, I said it out loud. I need to refinance the car loan tomorrow. He didn't ask why I hadn't done it sooner. He just nodded. I already looked into it, he said. That was the moment I understood something I had missed for years. He had never been waiting for permission either. By morning, everything had changed. 12 missed calls from my father. 3 texts from Olivia. 1 message from my mother. You embarrassed this family. No apology. No reflection. Just ownership of the narrative. I didn't reply. Instead, Ethan and I sat at our small kitchen table with a laptop open between us. Refinancing the car loan. My credit score blinked on the screen. Barely enough. 7.2%, Ethan said. Not great, but clean. It puts everything in your name. Clean break. The words hit harder than I expected. Not freedom. Separation. Accountability. Ownership. For the first time, the debt didn't feel like money. It felt like control. Like something that had been used quietly to keep me in place. I looked at the number on the screen. $18,000. And I thought, I let $18,000 decide who I was allowed to become. Within 72 hours, I submitted the application. Within 5 days, it was approved. Within a week, my parents' names were removed from the loan. I sent a short email. The auto loan has been refinanced under my name only. Thank you for the cosign. Sienna, no emotion. Just closure, or the beginning of it. We didn't talk after that. Not really. My mother didn't call. She didn't need to. Silence was always her second language. Olivia tried once, then stopped. My father sent a single message. Are you safe? I replied yes. That was it. 2 weeks later, I packed everything I owned into the car, 2 suitcases, a box of books, a laptop, a cactus Ethan had given me. That was all. We drove south, away from Connecticut, away from the version of me that still believed being good enough would ever be enough. And as the highway stretched forward, Ethan asked, "You okay?" I looked out the window and said the only honest thing I could manage. Ask me in a year. Austin felt nothing like home at first. It felt like noise. Heat rising off asphalt, cars that never really stopped moving, air that stayed warm even at night, like the city refused to let anything cool down completely. We arrived with $4,200 in the bank, 2 suitcases each, and a Honda Civic that now felt like both escape and reminder. The first apartment was a studio on East Riverside Drive, 480 square feet. Warped floors, an air conditioner that rattled like it was angry to still be working. We bought an air mattress on the first night. That was our bed. We didn't have furniture. We didn't have a plan beyond figure it out. And for the first time in my life, there was no one to ask for permission from. Only consequence. I started working immediately. Not the job I wanted. The job I could get. Barista at a coffee shop on South Congress, $12 an hour. The owner called everyone honey or sugar, and the espresso machine sounded like it was about to explode at all times. I worked mornings, came home exhausted, opened my laptop at the kitchen counter that doubled as everything else, and I started freelancing. At first, it was small things. A flyer for a food truck, social media posts for a nail salon, email templates for a yoga studio, $200 here, $400 there. It wasn't enough, but it was movement. Ethan worked from the same table. UX design contracts, late nights, early mornings, quiet focus. We didn't talk much about fear. We lived inside it. The first break didn't feel like a breakthrough. It felt like a mistake. A boutique hotel in South Congress needed a brand refresh. $3,500 contract. I remember calling Ethan from the parking lot, holding the signed agreement like it might disappear if I breathed wrong. Don't overthink it, he said. Just do the work. So I did. And then the client killed the project, changed direction, refused to pay full scope, paid half, $1,750. I sat on the curb outside our apartment, holding the invoice like it was proof of something I hadn't learned yet. Ethan came outside and sat next to me. "You didn't fail," he said. I laughed. "It feels like failure." He shook his head. "It's data." That word stayed with me longer than I expected. Data, not identity. 3 months later, I met Lorraine Voss. She was not warm. She was not encouraging. She was precise. Silver hair, navy blazer, no wasted words. She looked at my portfolio for exactly 11 minutes, then said, "You're undervaluing yourself." I laughed nervously. "I'm just trying to get clients." She closed the folder. "That's your first problem." Then she leaned forward. "I can refer you work, but only if you stop behaving like someone grateful to be in the room." She slid a notebook across the table. "Write a real proposal, real pricing, real structure, not survival math." I hesitated. She didn't. 48 hours. And she stood up. That was the whole conversation. That night, Ethan and I registered a company. He typed. I hesitated. Carter Creative LLC. Not Carter because it sounded good. Carter because I was done pretending I wasn't connected to where I came from. I just refused to be defined by it. $300 filing fee. Half our remaining savings at the time. "Are you sure?" I asked. Ethan didn't look up. "If you wait until it feels safe, you'll never start." Click. Submitted. That was it. No ceremony, no permission, just consequence and commitment. Lorraine delivered. 2 clients, then 3, then more. I learned something quickly. People don't pay for effort. They pay for clarity, for confidence, for certainty that you already believe your own value. So I stopped apologizing in my pricing, stopped negotiating against myself, stopped thinking like someone who might lose the opportunity, and everything changed. 1 year later, we weren't surviving anymore. We were building. 6 employees, then 10. A real office on East 6th Street. Glass front. Concrete floors. Our name printed on the door in clean black lettering. Carter Creative revenue crossed $400,000 that year. Then $1 million. Then more. I stopped counting everything except growth. Because for the first time in my life, numbers weren't judgment. They were proof. Ethan proposed again properly one night, not because we weren't already engaged, but because he said we should mark the life we actually built. We got married at the courthouse. No guests beyond a few friends. Lorraine came. So did the barista who once trained me at the cafe. That meant more than any ballroom ever could. Then came the invitation. Austin Business Journal, 40 under 40. I almost didn't go. It felt unnecessary. But Ethan said you should. So I wore a red blazer, not expensive, but intentional. The ballroom was on the 34th floor. Glass walls, city lights stretching outward like circuitry. And for a moment, I remembered another ballroom. Another version of myself standing in a corner holding an envelope I didn't deserve. I didn't think about it long, because I didn't need to live there anymore. When they called my name, I stood up, and I walked. No shaking hands this time, no hesitation, just movement. When I reached the stage, I looked out at the room and I said, I didn't start with resources. I started with being underestimated. Pause. And I stopped asking for permission to matter. Applause followed. Not polite. Real. That was when I saw them. Not immediately, but eventually. Back row. 3 faces I hadn't seen in years. My mother, my father, and my sister. Still. Olivia. Watching. My mother didn't smile. My father looked tired in a way I understood too well now. Olivia looked different, not polished, not untouchable, human. For after the event, I didn't go to them. I didn't avoid them either. We met in the parking garage later. Concrete, fluorescent lights. No chandeliers to soften anything. My mother spoke first. You did well. 2 words. That used to cost me everything. Now they cost me nothing. I know, I said. Silence followed. Olivia stepped forward. I lost everything, she said quietly. The house, the marriage, the version of life I thought I was guaranteed. She paused, and I realized I never built anything myself. That was the first honest thing she had ever said to me. I nodded. I'm sorry, I said. Not for her life. For the illusion she was raised inside. My father just stood there, then said, I should have protected both of you better. No excuses. No rankings, just late truth. We didn't fix everything that night. We didn't become a family again in some perfect way. That's not how this works. But something shifted. Not forgiveness, not forgetting. Something quieter. Understanding. Months later, I sat in my office, same building, expanded now, bigger team, bigger clients, bigger life. Ethan brought coffee and placed it on my desk. On the wall were 3 things. The LLC certificate, The first real contract invoice I ever got paid. And the award from that night in Austin. I didn't need anything else. My phone buzzed. A message from my mother. Coffee next week? I looked at it for a long time, then replied, Thursday, 10 a.m. Same place. No emotion, just boundaries. Because here's what I learned. You don't heal by winning against your past. You heal by outgrowing its authority over you. And if you're waiting for someone who underestimated you to finally understand your value, don't. Build something so undeniable that understanding becomes irrelevant. That's the end of the story. Not because everything became perfect, but because I stopped waiting for it to become permission-based. If this story meant something to you, remember this. You are not what you were told you are. You are what you build when no one is clapping yet.